What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today, or I should say this weekend, it was the first Trials of Osiris of Season of Defiance for Destiny 2. But oh my goodness, this weekend had so much hype behind it. Everyone was hopping in this playlist. People who haven't played Trials in years were grinding all because the featured Trials weapon this weekend was a brand new one just added this season, the Immortal. Now this is a Strand 750 rounds per minute aggressive frame SMG, and the God Rolls for this thing are nuts. Frankly, the hype is deserved. The PvP God Roll is so desirable, frankly, it has arguably already put this weapon at the #1 spot for the best legendary primary weapon for PvP. Like, if you play Trials right now, during my journey playing Trials, there was like a 90% chance my opponents were using the Immortal, and they're literally just using the best roll they've gotten up to that point, and they're still playing to try to get even better rolls. However, guys, the reason I'm making this video is because I think people are going after the wrong God Roll. Because the #1 roll I keep seeing recommended, in my opinion, isn't the best one. So let's talk about it. Now, the very first Adept Immortal I got was this absolutely saucy PvP roll right here. You've got Full Bore and then Hammer Forged if you don't want to give up that much stability. You have, unfortunately, Armor Piercing Rounds is the best to have in this slot, but then we've got Rangefinder for even more range. We've got Target Lock, which has turned out to be fantastic. It ramps up in damage extremely fast, so even in PvP, you will notice that damage increase. And then even Killing Wind, if I want to switch off Target Lock, we've got a Range Masterwork. I can put on Adept Range for even more range. And yeah, if I put on Full Bore, I get like 90 range. It is absolutely absurd. And this right here is not the role I'm talking about. I think generally people are definitely going after the same and the correct thing on the PvP side of things. You just want as much range as possible combined with, you know, either that damage increase from Target Lock or potentially some other things like Kill Clip as well are very viable. What I'm talking about is the PvE God Roll, because a lot of people out there are saying that the Immortal is also one of the most desirable PvE weapons, especially because it is Strand, so we don't have a lot of competition out there. There isn't a ton of Strand legendary weapons in the game, and you often want to be using Strand weapons if you're rocking a Strand build, and not to mention this weapon's archetype of an aggressive frame submachine gun already puts it above a lot of its competition. It's just a generally well-liked, good, powerful damage archetype. But the thing I'm seeing recommended by far above and beyond everything else for PvE is a roll involving Hatchling. Now, I did get a roll with Hatchling. I have perpetual motion to improve my reload speed, and generally this is what you want, just something to improve your reload speed. A threat detector would have been better, but alas, what can you do? And then Hatchling. Now, Hatchling says precision final blows or rapidly defeating targets with a non-precision weapon spawns a threadling at the target's location. And here's the thing, guys, you might fall out of your chair when you hear this. I think Hatchling is overrated. Okay, I'm sorry, it's just my honest opinion. Now, I know some of you are already scrolling down to the comments, you hit the caps lock, you're ready to yell at me, but just let me explain exactly why I think that and why there's an alternative role that I think a lot of people might want to go after instead. And certainly are gonna want to stop sharding. Like, people are so obsessed with the Hatchling role, they're literally deleting everything else. I'm telling you, that's not a good idea. So, Hatchling, in-game, as you can see, you get that precision hit, it spawns that threadling. The threadling is going to seek out nearby enemies, jump on them, and do a little bit of explosive damage in the sense that you can kill multiple enemies with one threadling kind of explosion. And it's going to do 14,800 damage. But let's take a look at its competition. So we have Firefly here, where getting a precision kill results in an explosion. So same gameplay loop. Get precision kills, more enemies die. In this case, that explosion deals 12,689 damage. So actually less damage than the threadling from Hatchling. If all the enemies are grouped up, yeah, it's a little bit better, but generally because that threadling will seek out enemies further away, Hatchling is actually the better perk here. Even though I said it was a little overrated, I actually don't think it's bad. However, if we take a look at another great perk here with a similar gameplay loop, we have Incandescent. Importantly, it just requires a kill. It doesn't need to be precision, and when I do get that kill, as you can see, a little bit of an explosion is sent out, dealing around 1400 damage to nearby enemies, and then they will be affected by Scorch, burning and doing around 605 damage per tick. And there's a lot of ticks and they last for quite a while. You can see the enemies affected by it will eventually die here. And on top of that, as you kill more and more enemies, the Scorch stacks will actually stack themselves. If you get to 100 stacks, then the enemies will ignite, causing an additional, even higher damaging explosion. So that's kind of the thing here. At a general purpose base level, remember, I'm using a void subclass for those tests, like I'm not increasing any of these things. I just think Incandescent is the best overall perk when it comes to getting those kills and then having that like extra effect compared to Hatchling, compared to Dragonfly, compared to Firefly. I think overall, definitely Incandescent wins. Now, there are stuff like Jolt out there, and Jolt, could be better than Incandescent. You can make that argument. However, it's a different gameplay loop. In that case, you have to get a kill and then reload constantly. So you're looking for kind of different perks with that thing. But yeah, if you're using Hatchling purely for ad clearing, I think there's better options out there. But you might be saying, hold on a second, Hatchling is best on actual Strand subclasses where you can boost the power of Threadlings. And you're absolutely right. Let's take a look at that. So, I'm on my Warlock Broodweaver Threadling build. I've got Thread of Evolution where Threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage. I've also got Thread of Rebirth for strand weapons to create even more Threadlings, so sometimes you'll get a precision kill and 2 Threadlings will spawn. Not to mention I've got the exotic legs, the Swarmers, so that my Threadlings will unravel targets that they damage. Like, this is everything you want in terms of Threadlings, and with this, as we can see, the damage is actually pretty significantly increased, up to 19,684 damage for a Threadling explosion, which is 33% more. And enemies who aren't killed by this will start to unravel, and as you can see, you can just start to pop off. Right here is where Hatchling comes into its own, with the Warlock on that Threadling build with all these synergies, and you can easily just clear rooms. You can get one single kill, and it can chain into many, many more. But there's a problem, and that problem is I'm just showing this off in a lost sector, so the enemies are extremely low light. What happens if I go to Neomuna? Well, as you can see here, I get a kill on this Cabal. I've got all my Threadling synergies, and nothing happens. Like, the Threadling does about half damage to this guy, so I can kill this guy, and then, I spawn 2 Threadlings, and, okay, well, I'll kill that Scion, but 2 Threadlings spawned against this one Centurion here. It doesn't do much. And this right here is the problem with Hatchling. Yes, it looks fantastic in Twitter clips and videos where people are using them against enemies that die when you breathe on them, but once you start to do higher level content, they really become less useful. Especially, guys, with the changes to difficulty, that's just gonna happen a lot more often. Like, before, I could actually get to the same light level, the same power level as enemies within a master dungeon. Now, I'm always 20 light behind. So the things that are going to become meta are going to be the things that scale up to that difficult content a lot better. And something like Incandescent, where it gets better and better the more Scorch synergies you have, and then if you're not killing enemies, eventually they start to ignite, and that's all very good. Like, that's going to be a little bit better in terms of scaling into difficult content than something like Hatchling, in my opinion. And also an example of that is the perk I would recommend in Hatchling's place for a lot of people. That's going to be Demolitionist. Listen, I am absolutely high on Demolitionist. I think it's one of the best perks in the game. I'll admit I'm a fanboy. I might have some bias here, but Take a look logically at the Strand builds out there and ask which builds want Hatchling and which builds actually want Demo. Definitely for the Warlock, they want Hatchling. So I'm not saying, delete all of your Hatchling rolls. You should definitely try to get one because on the Threadling Warlock, it is very, very good. But if we look at the Strand Titan, that main build involves these exotic legs that actually give you woven mail, which is fantastic for survivability when you suspend targets. And as a result, they really want their suspend grenades because that's going to trigger their woven mail and all of the other suspend synergies they have. So I think like a Strand Titan would arguably want Demolitionist more, especially because you can then combine it with this fragment here that boosts grenade recharge just for getting straight damage. So with a demo weapon, you're going to get your grenades back incredibly fast. And then if we look at the Strand Hunter, if you're running one of the popular builds there, which is the Grapple Hook Hunter, especially combined with the exotic helmet that gives you woven mail and provides that survivability while you're grappling, again, I think you really could make the argument that they would want Demolitionist more just because they want to have as many grapples as possible. And if something happens where they lose their grapple, you need to get that grapple back and start chaining as fast as possible. So again, Demo is very relevant with Strand builds. It directly competes with Hatchling. And so guys, that's why I feel that Hatchling is a bit overrated and you should absolutely be going after an Immortal role with Demolitionist. Now, in a perfect world, honestly, if you can get both, one with Demo, one with Hatchling, that's fantastic. But definitely stop deleting your Demo roles, which I've seen way too many people do. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.